There is no right or wrong when it comes to creating an illustrated travel journal. No guidebooks, no fixed rules, just a lot of creative possibilities. But in this video I want to share with you the step-by-step process that I followed to make my latest one, all dedicated to the wonderful Edinburgh in Scotland. As always, grab pen and paper and stay until the end, because this video is jam-packed with tips, hacks and suggestions that you might want to implement to create your own masterpieces and capture that spark of adventure that makes your travels something that you want to be able to hold on to forever. Hi everyone, this is Carlo and welcome back to my channel. Let's cut to the chase and get into action, starting with what we brought back from our travels. So we just been on our trip and we made sure we took a lot of pictures. Also, we collected a lot of paper mementos, tickets, cards, receipts, food packaging, paper napkins from restaurants and cafes. Sometimes I like to keep sachets of sugar from particular places, anything that will help us telling our story. Of course, during the trip, we made sure we have religiously taken journaling notes every day on a pocket notebook, so that we don't miss any single memory. Let's talk about our support. For a travel journal, any blank notebook will do, but if we decide to use watercolor, then we need a special paper for it. I've used a Traveler's Notebook Refill number 27, made of thick watercolor paper, where I've already created my travel journal of Algarve last summer. I wanted to continue on the same one with Edinburgh, so that I have my 2 trips of 2024 in the same place. Travel journals are all about visual storytelling. When you flip through the pages, even in 5, 10, 20 years from now, you want to be able to relive those feelings, rewalk those itineraries, remember details and places, and romanticize the little things. This is how I normally plan the visual storytelling of my travel journals. First, I go through the journaling notes that I took during the trip, and I make a list of what I've done and seen in a chronological order. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3. Then I make a different list, and this time I group things together by location, experience or concept. Are there any of these places and things that you've done that can be grouped together and therefore be visually put together in the same journal pages? Maybe because the locations are in the same area, or they are the same kind of experience. For example, food and drinks, historical places, nightlife. Here I group together all the places that I've seen around the Royal Mile, the historical main street of Edinburgh. The castle and the National War Museum will obviously be together, and I'll dedicate the last couple of pages of my journal to bars, food and nightlife. Grouping things together, I now know that I can create 5 spreads of 2 pages each. I tend to want to start my travel journals with a showstopper illustration as a first page. The first landmark I've seen in Edinburgh was the Scott Monument, so that will definitely feature in my first spread. And I will think of a creative idea to write the title, the name of the city. I'm also a big fan of including maps in my travel journals. I found a map of the Royal Mile area, so definitely that spread will feature a map in the middle from where the visual narration will organically develop, with photos, notes and illustrations. You can either cut and glue the map on your journal, or you can transfer it with this simple method. Scribble the backside with a soft pencil. I use the 3B1. Secure the map on the journal with masking tape and go through all the lines with a pen. Once you have a general carbon copy, you can refine it. You can add details with fine liners, you can color it, you do you, boo. Once you've sketched the structure for all the spreads you want to create, the exciting part is gonna start, and I think we're all ready for this. First of all, we're gonna go through all the photos that we took during the trip, and select the ones that we want to include as small pictures, and the ones that we want to transform into illustrations. I created a folder of selected photos, and I've used Canva to make photo grids that I've printed as regular photos and cut into small single images. You can use any app that creates photo collages to make these grids of small photos, but here's the tutorial to make them using Canva. Go on canva.com or on your Canva app if you're using your phone. Select Create New Design, click on Costume Size, and set up a project that measures 4 by 6 inches. which is the usual size for a printed photograph. Once you have the blank project, upload the photos you selected and start creating a grid of small pictures, adjusting sizes and cropping them as you like. Once you have all your photo collages, save them as JPEG, and you're ready to print them as regular photos on photo paper. Cut them, sort them, and keep them aside for later, because now we're gonna start illustrating our journal. For your illustrations, you can choose the style and the media that you prefer. You can keep it simple with pencils, use fine liners, watercolor, markers. For my illustrations, I chose to sketch with Pigma Micron by Sakura. These amazing fine liners that are super water resistant. If you're not a skilled sketcher, tracing paper is a great ally to help you create your masterpiece. Open the image you want to sketch on your laptop and using an editing tool, flip it horizontally. Secure some tracing paper to the screen with masking tape and trace the lines using a pencil, without pushing too much. I generally trace the main lines to help me get perspectives and proportions right. Once they are traced, remove the sheet from the screen. Turn it around and place it on your journal to transfer the structure on your pages. Now you can use your original reference photo to properly work on the sketch. I like to magnify portion by portion and add all the little details. It's such a relaxing and meditative activity. I love it. Create your illustrations in different formats. You can make bigger and detailed ones, alternated with smaller and simplified ones. You decide the level of detail in each of them. I always have problems in editing down, but it's always better to simplify, especially if you are just starting with this kind of journaling. The purpose of travel journaling is to capture moments and feelings. So as I said in one of my previous videos, don't chase the perfect image, chase the effective image. It's time to add color now. This is the part where I take out my Daler Rowney Aquafine set and I start working from light tones to dark tones, letting every layer dry before applying the next one. The beauty of watercolor is that you can gradually build the chromatic profile of your illustrations, layer after layer. A thing that I like to do is splattering some watery pigment outside the edges of the illustration, so that the image doesn't look confined into boundaries, but kind of organically jam out of the page in a dynamic way. This also helps connecting the two pages of the spread, in this case. I colored all my illustrations with watercolor and I've applied a finishing layer of colored pencils to enrich some tones and add the smaller details. These pencils are very good. They are Winsor & Newton watercolor pencils, which means they are also water soluble if you want to blend them with a wet brush. Chef's kiss. Let's talk about the title, and for title I mean the name of the city that your travel journal is about. When I made my summer journal of Algarve, I created a semi-transparent page where I wrote the title with a silver gel pen. I love that effect, and I wanted a similar creative idea for this Edinburgh journal, so why not creating a door this time? I sketched the facade of a building on a piece of watercolor paper, and I used the Uniball Signal gel pen to write the title vertically. I colored it with watercolor and pencils, as I did for the other illustrations. And I retouched the silver writing, adding as a subtitle the time of the year when my trip took place. I love the fact that it shines when you move the page against the light. It's the little things, you know. I cut it along the borders and made sure it was the same size of my journal. Now, to install the door and make it open and close smoothly, we need magic tape by Scotch, which guarantees an almost invisible seam. I've applied a strip on the internal side of my door and aligned it with the side of my journal. I'm super happy with how it looks. Another purpose of including doors into your journals is to expand the journalable space available and also make the flip through more interesting and fun. So I created 2 more doors using the postcards that I brought back from my trip. I advise to trim them in a way that they don't reach all the way to the middle of the journal, which will make it difficult to close. You want everything to be super smooth. Do you remember the little photos that we put aside earlier? This is the moment when they take center stage. We will use them to complete our visual storytelling. And once we decided where to place them on our spreads, we need some ideas to make them a bit special. That's why I often like to mount them on small rectangles of white paper to recall the Polaroid aesthetic. That's an easy and effective solution. But there's so much more that we can do. This long landscape one will look great with a window frame applied on top. So I made a rectangle of black paper slightly larger than the photo. And with a cutter I cut 3 windows of the same size. Isn't it a very cute window frame? Using a glue stick, I mounted it on top of my photo. And this can be a good idea that complements the Polaroid pictures we already have. Also, another way to incorporate all the paper mementos that we brought back from the trip is to use them as photo mounts. For example, the packaging of these amazing Walker's biscuits with the typical Scottish tartan can make a really fun frame for your pictures. At the National War Museum, I bought this replica of a ration book from wartime. So I've used that to mount the pictures on the spread dedicated to Edinburgh Castle. Of course, not all pictures need to be mounted. You don't want your journal to look too overwhelming. On my final spread, I decided to gather cards and mementos from cafes, bars and restaurants. And for the photos, I decided to mount them onto strips of black paper to create a vintage film aesthetic. I will show you how. With a white Uniball Signal gel pen, I drew groups of 4 little squares near the edges of every photo. And along the other border, I draw a play and play pause symbol, alternating them. On the other strip, I drew flattened rectangles spaced regularly, and added numbers, letters, and the play symbol again. Time to stick them on my journal, and guess what? I chose to use one of them as another door, gluing the tram tickets on the other side, and completing the scrapbook look of the page. Once we have all the visual part of the journal sorted, we can rewrite our journaling notes, copying them from the pocket notebook. I get asked very often, how do you know if a paragraph is gonna fit in the space that you have? Or if you're not gonna have enough space to write everything? Or if you're gonna finish early and have gaps? The answer is, you never really know this. But with time and practice, you learn how your calligraphy naturally fills the space. And you will also learn to elongate or shorten the sentences to fit in the page while you're writing. You can also use washi tape or scrapbooking elements to fill in gaps. Another way to fill gaps is using them to write captions for your photos, or adding little side comments. My travel journal of Edinburgh is finally complete, and here's a little flip through of all the pages. I hope you enjoyed this start to finish video, and I hope these little tips and tutorials inspired you to start creating your own illustrated journal. As a tangible personal keepsake, that is not simply a collection of photos and a record of where you went, but also a way to cherish feelings and impressions, and to truly romanticize and relive every special moment every time you want. If you like this video, feel free to like, comment, share and subscribe. It's a little thing that will really help me reach more people that share our same passion. This was me, Carlo, and until next video, take care, be kind, and see you soon.